Good morning, everyone. I hope we had a good night, rested, and we are back to continue with our meeting today. We have already done devotions. For those of you who are online, I hope you are following the guideline for devotion. I wish we could have time to actually share some of the experiences. In my group, we have really been touched. We have been challenged personally. We have been forced to look at ourselves and to really, ask hard questions about who we are and what we are doing. So we thank God for the devotions. Thank God for Nico, perhaps, and Hannes, who have put this together. So make use of that, unless those lessons we are learning become part of our lives, because we can't change Africa without changing ourselves. I think that is the message there. And we can't be thinking of big changes in Africa without the small changes. How do we act differently? We were at the breakfast. Somebody was sharing, coming from Botswana, where they have, if you have zebra crossing, people are crossing, you stop. Just like in the US, Canada, you stop for pedestrians. But here, in some of our countries in Africa, pedestrians have to be very, very careful, or else somebody will run over them and crush them to death. So he said he came from Botswana, they do that, but he came to Kenya for a conference and was driving, and he saw the pedestrian, he stopped and allowed them to pass. Other people were just flying. Yeah. And they'll be hooting. So we begin to change things. There are very simple things that can change. We have control of those things. We need to really enforce them in our country, because that is part of the common good that we are talking about, caring for one another. So thank you very much. We will continue yesterday, you remember, we decided not to talk about the strategy so that we'll come back to it when our minds are really fresh. So we would like from here to ask one of us to lead us in prayer. Rob, from Pretoria. Sorry, I can't pronounce the name for now. Nonetheless, we'll ask you to lead us in prayer because she will be leaving us after lunch. And I just wanted to thank him for being part of this, and for what you are doing, promoting it and connection, the network, making it work, actually. Let me put it that way. Because your proactive approach to it led to what we saw yesterday. And what a blessing to that. And the young people that were there, some of us had time to talk with some of them individually and to hear their passion. A question that one of them asked is, you need to come closer to us, to hear us. Don't just give us this information and go away. We need you closer to us. I think that was powerful. And these are the people that can actually change the country. So please lead us in prayer.
Let us pray together. Father God, as we stand in your glorious presence, we thank you for what we gather from you. We thank you, Lord, that you instill within us the ability to think, the ability to rationalize, and the ability also to produce that will bring you honor and glory. And Lord, with my brothers and my sister, with NetACT and what we are trying to achieve, yes, Lord, you give us the ability to think, you give us the ability to rationalize, but you also give us the ability to perform. That, Lord, whatever we perform will bring honor and glory to you, especially in this continent of Africa. Father God, there's much work that needs to be done. And as we deliberate and discuss what's on the agenda this day, that, Lord, we will remember that you give us the ability to be able to work through the agenda, to make decisions.
Online, if you have it there. Just a reminder again for our colleagues online, please keep yourself muted all the time. We have some disturbances this side. If you are online, after you have maybe said something, just immediately mute yourself so that we can stop the sound interfaces on this side. So we will be dealing together or jointly with page 7 and also page 11, the NetACT Office first section of it, not just the introduction. Because Chair, I will open for what we are trying to look at from the executives, there's a lot of expectations, things for them. And we, from the office, does not have capacity. That's now on page 11. Does not have capacity to do certain things because it's a volunteer organization. Myself works full-time another job. This is not my job. We pay Hannes a small stipend. So he's technically the only full-time employee, but he specifically works on one area. So if our organization is built, or our network is built on the expectations that we need to get things from the network, it's going to fail. A network in its essence is a place where you bring and contribute, not get. That's a major shift that you need to make as a network. So we need to, this morning, do a little bit of a strategic planning and to say, what is our way forward? So what we did is we gave you the, as described in our constitution, the 7 aspects, because these 7 things determine what we do in the office and what we as a network are doing. So we need to have this morning a serious look at them. I'm going to read them now. They're also up there on the screen for you. And then discuss, is this still what we are busy with? Is this still what we need to do? Or is there certain things that we should stop doing? It's always difficult for a network or any organization or any theological education institution to stop doing certain things. But it's okay to stop doing certain things, to retire them. If it's not serving the purpose anymore, if we can't do it, let's rather say, that's okay, we leave it, but we do some other stuff and we do that really good to the benefit of the members or the institutions that are part of the membership. So, Chair, I think let me stop there. Maybe just one last remark, which I would like to make. You see that in the little introduction there, our aim is to be a network that creates synergy between African theological institutions for the development of an African congregational theology. So that should be our aim. That's where we need to focus on. So this morning, in our reflection now on a strategic way forward, is to say, what should we be busy with? And then the second question is how can each institution contribute? And it's not about money. We don't talk about money. We talk about resources and skills because that's what we share. We all know money is a problem. And in the office, we've got no funder for the office. I keep on saying that many times over and over, because donors don't want to fund an office. So we fund the office from 10% of project money. So if a project comes in, it's $10,000, then $1,000 go to the office. And then the rest go into the project. So that's our agreement also with donors, and donors are fine with that, because 90% of the money goes straight and directly to the project. So the question is are we a learning network? There's a whole theory around learning organizations. And in my 30 years in ministry, the worst learning organizations is the church. You know, the books of Peter Senge, in the management category of learning, Peter Senge wrote a lot about learning organizations. And the church is one of the worst learners, because the church always comes from the approach they know it all. They will never, they very seldom, in my work in congregations over 30 years, congregations, you get there and they think they know everything. They're so unwilling to learn. But if you look at organizations that makes it over time, and organizations that thrive and work, is organizations that has got the ability to learn. So we need to be a learning community. There's a whole theory on learning communities too, where you come together to learn together, learning communities. And I think if we look at a network should be in its essence a learning community, where we come together to learn. And we share the knowledge that we have. We bring the knowledge that we discovered to the table and say, colleagues, this is it. Let's learn from this knowledge. We create new knowledge and new epistemology. And from there on, we go back again, implement that into our own institutions, and bring again new epistemology and new knowledge to the table. That's a learning organization, or a learning community, or a learning network. So colleagues, let me stop there. Let's open up the table. Maybe the chair can continue then.
Thank you, Nico. I think as a network, we want to model something very powerful. And what is that? Collaborative partnership. Collaborative partnership that actually comes from let us in Genesis. The let us model is what we are modeling here. The God that created us is a God of let us create man in our image. So as we think of this, we are thinking of coming as the same level. It's not because I have this big university of 4,000, I'm thinking I'm in charge. That is not the idea. It is that idea of let us. God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit working together. So we want to model that in our continent. This is the network that we are above. So let's come with that idea, understanding. Don't look down on yourself. We want you to be where you feel that you are part and parcel of this. And you are bringing something to the table, which will not be neglected, which we can share, because this is what you have, that resources that you have. It's a God-given resources that will help us to model the let us principle in the Bible. So I think we go with that idea so that we begin to bring in ideas that will help us. We really want to create, a network that will enable us to make it possible for people to see value, to value the network. For us, that is key. What makes this network valued? We may not have all, but if we collaborate, that collaborative partnership gives us power. There are things that the office might not be able to do, but if we can do it together. And I like that idea. That was why we collapsed the idea of clusters. And when we first joined, Kogoro, I was in Kogoro when we first joined. And, you know, there was the cluster of Stellenbosch. I said, we'll join Stellenbosch. Because they're thinking, oh, we'll join this university that is this big name, and we're going to benefit more. But we have collapsed that idea because the idea is collaborative partnership. It's let us together. It's not about how big you are or how small you are. We're all together at the same level. Thank you. So now you can look at, should we read them? I think you just run through them. Run through them.
Let me run through them, Chair, and then we can just start the discussion. As described in the NetACT Constitution, the mission of NetACT is described as NetACT aims to assist member institutions with developing congregational theology, leadership, and governance. It seeks to achieve this aim primarily through the promotion of contextually relevant training of congregational leadership, upgrading of academic standards and institutional capacity building, developing and enhancing research within and among participating institutions, developing continuing education programs in and among member institutions, promoting and facilitating lecture exchange between participating institutions, hosting conferences, workshops, symposia, etc. in the field of theology in Africa, and disseminating the results of these by way of publications. Addressing specific concerns in African context, especially by providing joint theological, moral, and spiritual reflection in addressing these concerns. So from the EXCO, we said in the discussion, it is necessary that we constantly remind ourselves that all these activities must fit into this vision, and in these 27 statements. So the activities that we have must fit into this, and then also in terms of our office structure and who drives what and who's taking responsibility for what. So the board discusses and reflects strategically on our mission and our purpose. Right, colleagues, let's open up the floor and have some discussion on this. Our online colleagues, just raise your hands there if you would like to make a contribution. Our team, how many online participants do we have this morning? 4. Okay. Well, you will just keep us posted there if there's someone who wants to like to answer. Right, colleagues, thank you. And silence fell upon the land. Yes. Thank you, Maniraj.
Of course, I wasn't part of the developing of this constitution, but if I just read the very first line of what you read out, NetACT aims to assist institutions. The moment you say NetACT aims to, you almost separating NetACT from the institution, as if NetACT is a separate body, and that is why I think the conception that NetACT, because we must go to NetACT as if NetACT is not us. Yeah. So I think that phraseology needs to change to, like you said, let us. So NetACT must be us, and the moment that becomes incorporated, then we don't have this problem.
We aim to assist each other. We aim to assist each other. As a network, we aim to assist each other.
Okay. So what he is suggesting there, I like that idea. NetACT aims to. It's like NetACT is a separate entity from us. But what we want now, the let us idea and model or principle, would then mean that as a network, we aim to assist each other in these areas.
Thank you, colleagues. More remarks? This cannot be the total sum of our thinking.
Thank you, Chair. The 7 aspects to which we aspire I think as an organization, we are trying to achieve them. Of course, there are problems here and there which came by, like COVID-19 and also lack of resources, because like what Nico was saying last night, to say it is now very difficult to get money to fund these projects which we want. But looking at upgrading the standards of our institutions, we are doing it. Looking at IT, what Fraser is doing. So to me, we are still in step with what we planned to do as an organization. The only thing which we can maybe think of is how can we do it more? How can we improve? Like the discussions which we had last night pertaining the IT, the NIP. So that is what I am thinking, to say, how can we do more? That is what we can now plan. But we are trying to keep in step with what we intended to do.
Thank you very much. I think what we're trying to do is to make sure that we don't have a wrong perspective or perception of the network. That is somebody that is going to do it for us. The whole idea, I think the whole discussion here is to say to ourselves, this is our baby. We give birth to this baby. We own it together. It's not just the leadership. Of course, there would be leadership to always push us to do things. So when we embrace this, for instance, the way he has helped us rephrase it makes me own this now, that I'm part of those who will encourage the upgrading of institutions. We want to make sure that our institutions have a contextualized and relevant training. We would like to see that. And we are encouraging that. And that is why we are focusing now on the curriculum, observing curriculums. We know that curriculums will not be the same. Every region, every institution have their own culture. But we want to see that something has been done that is of standard, that meets global best practices. Okay, so that kind of overseeing together, supporting each other together, and in fact, I like the word, the common good of our institutions, the common good of our nation, that we are producing something that is for the blessing of our continent. Remember, we have a target. Our target is the church and it is the society. And nothing short of transformation. Nothing short of transformation. We want to offer hope to the continent. And we offer hope to theological education. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, no, you didn't see me, but it's fine. The different aims that we have here is also a remnant from the old NetACT. It came from the days when we were 15 members in the network. At that time, it was very easy to organize a conference for 15 members. It was very easy to have traveling curriculum development workshops to all the different member institutions. That has changed with us now being 54 members. It's got its strengths, but unfortunately, it also got its weaknesses. Right, so we have to rethink why are we there for. I think that it used the emphasis in the past was more, the emphasis was more on what can we do. and less on what is it that we can share in the sense of also sharing opportunities and sharing information. I think that's the most important characteristic of a network. You know, we network and we share information. We share opportunities. I don't think that the emphasis should remain on the network as a body to do things, to always organize things. Yes, if that opportunity comes our way, by all means. If we get the funding, by all means. But I think the most important thing is for that this is a network where we share experiences and in which we share opportunities. And for that, we also in the past we found that the network was extremely well suited, because a lot of the projects and a lot of the funding and whatever that came our way was because people knew that we can share that information, and we have so many members, and if they want to work through one network, they can work through NetACT and they can reach 15 countries in Africa. I think that the emphasis on the sharing of information and opportunities should be the primary one. And then whenever we can do something like the NIP, like the workshops, like getting bursaries, like getting exchanges, those should be additional benefits. But we've now seen with the scarcity of funding, if we make those our primary objectives, we won't succeed, because it just gets more difficult and more difficult, and also because we are growing, we're getting bigger and bigger. The information that we have to share also gets bigger, so that's amazing. But the actual things that we can do as a network does not necessarily grow together with that. So I think there should be, we should again return to more like a classic understanding of what a network is, the sharing of information and opportunities. And the spin-offs of that would be all these projects that we've had over the years.
Wonderful. Before anybody says anything, let me say to us that the growth is not a disadvantage. Rather, the growth is a strength for us. Because even donors, they are looking at the impact of what they are going to give. Like you were sharing yesterday and asking, I mean, let's give him stories that help people who are supporting him see the impact they are making. So it's a strength for us that we have 54 institutions that are under us. If we take advantage of that strength, we'll even benefit more than what we are doing. So we need, and that is why we need you. The other thing is that you have said really great, profoundly, is the fact that we share information. There's information on the ground right now that our brothers and sisters online do not have. The Barnabas opportunity for agricultural aid, medical aid and all of that. Let's package that and share it so that we see people coming up with proposals for that. So that kind of thing. So, but let me emphasize that we are even where we can get things done. We can get funding. It's just that we may need to be more strategic and get people who are thinking for us. Helping us to really, you see, one of the things that we have missed from Hendrik is his ability to write proposals. He was on top of that. He was retired and he devoted his time to that. He will always write proposals on our behalf. He's no longer there for us. But we may need to have somebody like that again. Because if we take advantage of our numbers now, we'll even get more things than ever. So I want to just encourage us. Okay, yes, so.
Thank you, Chair. I think from the rephrasing of our aim, which may then maybe after the full stop, we could also put another we instead of it.
Okay.
But I think because given that, and given what my predecessors have said, I'm wondering if it wouldn't be one appreciating what Stellenbosch University and the Dutch Reformed Free State are doing already by hosting our network. I'm wondering if, as a network, we could also have volunteer coordinators. If we could divide our aims amongst ourselves as members, so that we have coordinators for each and every one of this, whether we divide one of these goals into two, or we just take it as they are, in which case there would be 7. I think if we were to do that, we would alleviate the weight that is rested upon the offices, so that there are people from the rest from all over the network who can take care of each one of this and follow up and ask questions. Morija, how far are you with your curriculum on behalf of the network? And then that particular person will be able to give reports to the office to say, we have done a survey, we have so many institutions who are at this particular level in this particular goal. So I think that could be objectives. Maybe common or participatory or wider participation. I think that is what I'm suggesting. That we have people around the network who can coordinate. In that sense, they would have housed at least one of the objectives of the network at their offices. Thank you.
Chair, thank you. As an extension to what is being proposed by my colleague here, I was also of the view that as a way of decentralizing some of these activities that I think our colleagues are putting as a concern, we can as well use our regional blocks. We have regions which we in the past, I remember whether it was 2019 or 2020, we used them for trading of the portal issues at the ICT. It worked in most of these regional blocks. So I was of the view, if instead of assigning these specific objectives to coordinators, we can as well agree to relieve our colleagues at Stellenbosch and Free State. We can as well identify volunteers in these regions who can work together with our colleagues at Stellenbosch in specific areas and be able to coordinate those activities to member institutions in their regions. I just wanted to extend what he said.
Brother Chair, I was just thinking about what Lynn said, that we are more than 10 years onwards. One of the key words that's coming to mind these days are partnerships. So although it's embedded here in a certain sense, I would like if we can have partnerships as part and parcel of our vision. I wrote something down which perhaps could be in the beginning, building partnerships amongst one another by exchanging of all relevant common knowledge about curriculum development. That's another thing that is broader than it said here, accreditation and even sources of income. I just wonder how they will feel about that.
Income stream.
Is there online colleagues who would like to participate? Please just give us an indication.
Probably we may all be saying the same thing, but in different ways. I would also add my voice to say that we could convert in order to reduce the load or the burden on the office. These aspirations or these aims could be converted into departments. For example, the Department of Curriculum Building, the Department of I don't know, but we could convert them into some essential departments, Department of Research, projects, so that at the level of the office, what the office will now be doing will be coordination. These departments could be hosted at regional levels or at whatever level, but they should go with expertise of the persons who could be assigned to these various arms. In this way, I think the work of the activities of the network will be much more profound. I also wish to add my voice to that of the chair to say that the number 54 for me is rather proof of the fact that the network is active. If it rather dropped, it will prove that the network is not expanding and that the impact is not being felt. So for me, it's rather some form of strength. But now, as the number grows, it comes back to us to strategize and see how our activities can cover all the membership.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, as we rethink our role and the aim of NetACT, number one, we should still remember that we are a network. And NetACT is a network. And as a network, we still need the central office. I'm mindful of what we did some years ago with the clusters. We had paired the institutions. I think there was one big university and another one. They worked together, but that was not very, very beneficial. So as we rethink of how we'll continue to work, I think we should still make sure that the central office has its clear role and responsibility. While the institutions, as we network, the central office can facilitate, but the institutions, they should also have something to bring to the network. I'm thinking the example of our regional, when we had tried to launch the book, people were not offering to be of service. We had offered, for example, at ABC to host it, but people wanted me to do everything. And I said, I can't. I can't be the host. I can't be the organizer. I can't be inviting people. I can't. We just had to do it together. So as we look at our aim, really, let's remember that we are a network, first and foremost. Other things can be facilitated, but let's not drift away from the role of the central office in networking and bringing that collaboration. Thank you.
Chair, I like the idea of the departments. And I think in our faculty, I'm not too sure in Stellenbosch, probably it's the same. Whenever we get assessed on 3 principles, whether it's research, community development, and teaching and learning. And I'm wondering whether we cannot do that, 3 departments even within our own body. We have a group who loves research. There's another group that loves teaching and learning, which is curriculum development, for example. And there's another section that will just love community development, get involved in interreligious dialogue in communities. And I'm wondering whether we shouldn't have these 3 divisions and see how these 7 points fit into those divisions. And then probably we get volunteers that want to serve in those divisions. For example, I would love to serve in the research division. That's my strength. Somebody would love to serve in the community development. So I like the thing of departments, I think, but you know, and I'm just talking from my university. We have these 3 sectors, and we can maybe do that with us. So we share the burden, like my sister said. We share, and then the office can then monitor that and manage that.
Can I speak? Yeah, I just want to chime in. Everybody seems to be much on the same point, but just to talk about something that I've had experience of in Scotland, which is distributed network, which is that you divide up the functions and you make sure that everybody gets a chance to do one of the functions. So, for example, I was part of a federated university, and the IT department was split up so that the video conferencing was run out of Shetland, and the email was run out of Skye, and the file sharing was run out of Perth. Some of these place names might not mean much to some of you, but they are all actually on different land masses. It was quite a network. And the other thing to say is that we want to be taking into account what Maggie said about not drifting away from the central office, but on the other hand, you don't need the central office permission to collaborate to do something. Yeah. So, I mean, if you either in your region, or it doesn't even have to be a region, in your country or in a smaller cluster within your country, if you see a need that you think could best be served by working together, then you don't need to come asking for permission or waiting for the next AGM. You can just go ahead. I think I'm right in saying so. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Give you an example. This public theology thing was commissioned to me individually to do by Langham. But you remember that it was at our AGM that I said, no, I'm not going to do it alone. Here is what I have found. I have funding for it. I have a sabbatical for it. But I want NetACT to be part of it. And it was overwhelmingly agreed and accepted. And that is how it has now become a blessing to all of us. If I have sat along and wrote that book, nobody will even think of it. But look at the blessing today. It's not me, it's all of us. That is the spirit. I mean, that is really the spirit we want here. Don't look for any glory for yourself. You will not get it. We will get it together. We'll get it together. So I think that's the point here. If you found something, can you share it? Let's look at it together. I'm looking forward to projects that we can do together. And that is our next phase.
But the Chair, what I also hear is the importance of the office, especially to communicate, because communication is very important. Nico said earlier, there's not funds anymore, and that's true, but there's funds for stories that are working, because people have an idea in Africa, nothing is working. And if we share our stories, what I experienced in the office for 7 months, is a beautiful people who do wonderful work, but the outside world don't know anything about it. And that is what, and Fraser referred to it last night, that is why the bulletin, what I started, is so important also for me. But it can also only be a success if you share your stories and what you learned and what you experienced. And so that we can, from the central office, we can communicate it to a bigger world so that people can see, wow, the theological institutions in Africa really make a difference.
Can I just follow up with that? Let me just switch this. Yeah, sorry.
Fraser, no good talking to yourself.
That's, yeah, okay, sorry. I hit the wrong button on my camera, sorry. Yeah, just to share what Hannes was saying about things that work in Africa that the outside world doesn't always know about. The chair and I shared a trip to Cote d'Ivoire pre-COVID, and on the off day, our hosts took us up to the Basilica. Can you remember the name? Yeah. Anyway, this is essentially the biggest basilica in the world, which was built in Africa by Africans, and it's astonishing. If you never get the chance to go and see it, at least look it up and look. It's a beautiful building. It seats well over 1,000 comfortably. It's all set up with air conditioning and proper sound dampening so that there's good acoustics throughout it. Just to share a little story, on the top dome there are 12 stained glass pictures of the 12 disciples, and each one is carrying what is traditionally thought of as the means of their martyrdom or their death, apart from one. They drew up Thomas, because Thomas is the doubter. They made him carry a little picture of the basilica because so many people doubted that it would be built. but yes, I mean that's, and I'm feeling convicted that we didn't share that with the rest of the network. Yeah.
David?
Yeah, thank you. It's more just an observation. I appreciate the reality that we don't have funds. We struggle for a central office. We're not an organization. We need to be a network, which requires contributions by all of the participating institutions. And the idea that NetACT is us, not NetACT out there as this office from whom we get things. But I'm also just observing the reality that we represent a handful of institutions here, and we have 4 or 5 colleagues online, which by my math is optimistically 15 institutions participating in our AGM, which is less than 25% of our network if we have 54 institutions. And the comment earlier about updating our database and contact information, and we send out surveys, we get responses from 10, actively involved institutions, and then a lot of other institutions don't. So it's just an observation. I don't know how to address that, how to re-engage institutions. We heard a story about an institution that really rebuilt because of NetACT involvement, but it sounds like a lot of that was also Jürgen's work when he was able to give that work, which our office now struggles to give. So how do we have 54 actively engaged institutions? And I'm kind of mindful of the people that are not part of this conversation now, the 60, 70% of our institutions that are not participating in the AGM. So I don't know what to say because this is the choir here. It's an observation and a question that I think we need to address.
Mr. Chair, I just want to, before I make another point, I want to express my fears. We've said so many pertinent things, I'm just afraid some of the great things that we have said may dissipate. I don't know how big Nico's head is to have recorded all the things that we have said, so that we'll come back to them. But the next point I wanted to make is that before I came here, I read about NetACT. But from the meeting of yesterday, I started dreaming big. And especially when the chairman asked question this morning, I started thinking differently. I thought I should just express my vision and my thought about this new question of what do we expect, how do we envisage NetACT to be in the present situation. For me, I wish to see NetACT grow bigger with a central organ as it is now.
Yes, that's the link. This one is another mission.
With developed departments and with regional, what you had as clusters probably developed into regionals in such a way that probably in West Africa or in East Africa or in Central Africa, or we should have a regional network that coordinates the activities of that sector. Yesterday, when I presented myself, the chair said, if you did not come, we would have come for you.
No, not, it's not this thing.
Which shows the interest of the network to actually become a net that picks and works together. Because the work of a net is to,
that one is next week Thursday,
is to catch
it's training
as many as possible before starting the work and putting net and work together. Yeah. So I foresee
both midnight
network growing from here and becoming a big net.
And it's in South Africa,
where the headquarters could be wherever.
The one I went to
now, but decentralized with those departments, so as to make it work very, very effective and fair. This point, we will keep developing, we will keep upgrading, we will keep promoting, we will keep hosting. And that is why I love these verbs. We'll keep doing these things. I don't think there is at any moment that we will say we have developed, we have promoted, we will keep doing them. And we need to strategize from that perspective. Thank
Beatrice, you can speak.
Yeah, I'm just asking that those people who have not unmuted their this thing, please let them be cautioned because they are interrupting us so much. There are people who have not muted their this thing and they are interrupting us so much. So please, could you tell them? Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Sorry. Colleagues online, please make sure that you are muted. Thank you. Beatrice, do you have some other contribution to our discussion? Beatrice?
I think after Len, except if anybody online has a contribution, we need to move on. We have had enough information. Because what he has said, if we are not careful, we continue to pile more information and we will forget these great solid ideas that we have already built. So,
thank you, Chair.
Except if someone online would like to make a contribution.
Just a couple of things. Just I think that at this time it is important for us to decide what are we going to do? What are we What can we do? What are we prepared to do? These are in the sense of objectives, you know, the stuff that we can do. And then we have to decide how can this be done? Can some of this be given to specific people within the network that can be taken out of the? I'm thinking of something like keeping the database up to date. If one institution can take responsibility for that, and we give them the contact details, the whole list, and every 6 months, that institution just contacts everyone and asks, is this still the contact person in your institution? It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of frustration of Hannes's work if he knows that this is an up-to-date a mailing list that he has. He doesn't have to worry about it. It's being updated twice a year or whatever, and everyone would get the information, something like that. And I mean, that isn't something that needs to be done by the central office. The other thing is what our colleague here said. I think it's extremely important, and I must confess, I know, you know, it's difficult, finances especially, for everyone to attend. But I mean, in the past, every single institution sent a representative, but their flights were paid, their accommodation was paid, everything was supplied then. And I completely understand that not all institutions either have the time to send somebody for a week away, or they have the money. But is there no one in all of our institutions that could attend one session even online of our AGM? So I think we must ask our members, you know, how committed are you still to I mean, it's one thing to be part of a network if every year you get flown to somewhere for a nice conference for a week, and you get some books now and then, you get some information, but not even information from your side. I mean, we should ask constitutions, and for the past couple of years, we didn't even have membership fees. That was paid for everyone. So, I mean, I can understand that an institution would kind of relax. You know, somebody else is doing the work, and I just get the benefits without being that network that you spoke about, Mr. Chairperson. So perhaps it's also time to just take stock of who our members are, and are they still active in the network? Are they still interested in staying in the network? If you know, when we send out information from some networks for months, you don't get any response, not even, you know, thank you, we've received the information. So perhaps we should just look again. You know, I don't want to call it deadwood, but to, you know, whether the network still works for everyone.
Thank you, Len, for that. Let's recognize a reality. COVID hit us badly. We have a situation that can be a big excuse for that. But I also hear you suggesting something that is possible for all of us. There are institutions where, members institutions, where you give scholarship for students. Is it possible, for instance, if we have a little scholarship to give somebody, some work scholarship at Stellenbosch, to help him with the update of communication? Just do that. I can do that in my school if I have a student. I can pick a student and say, here is a scholarship. We have this intelligent ICT student that can help us with some of these things. You know, they know how to manipulate the information and get things out for us. You know, I'm using, sorry, I'm using, I mean, they know how to do things for us. Yes. So if we say, okay, here is a little scholarship coming from NetACT to do NetACT work for us, I'm a busy person. As a president of a university, a university or a seminary, Maggie is busy, But if she has a student who will work alongside her, she gives the student the information the student needs to put there and what information to send out. The student will know that I'm doing this work scholarship. It's not for free, but I'm getting it because of this network called NetACT. Who do the work? Now, the third thing I've seen as a way going forward is the issue of the regions. West, East, Central, South, North, So in that case, once we have the regional distance, this idea of using people on scholarship to help them, because we are going to ask head of institutions to do this. And you know how busy we all are. Nothing will get done. But once we have that idea of saying, okay, let's pick a student. What with this student? One, we are providing mentorship for that student. It's a blessing. We are getting them do their school with a scholarship. We are preparing leaders. So it's a kind of, this network includes mentorship. It includes mentorship. So it's a kind of a holistic package that we want to present. So I can see that we have some things that will get us going there. We need to begin to organize them. Perhaps we'll come back to them when you have the time. We have somebody online? Okay, one person online. So let's.
No. Just let me just share quickly the screen.
Oh, you have, okay.
Yes, sorry, colleague. I am paying attention. It's just that I'm
Okay, good.
trying to write some things here. Okay, colleagues, that's sort of what we let me just get to my okay. So the changes that's sort of what I'm picking up from you from the floor, and this is now just to amend this section in our constitution so that it reads a little bit differently in order for us to do the next step. So first of all, the NetACT, as described in the NetACT constitution, the mission of NetACT is described as, and then we strike that through and we say we aim to assist each other with developing congregational theology, leadership, and governance. And then we strike that and we say we seek to achieve this aim primarily through working together within a Pan-African network by encouraging each other to be contextually relevant in our training of congregational leadership. Upgrading, we strike that through and we say promoting rigorous academic standards and institutional capacity building. See, the moment that we take out the upgrading is then now if we just say promoting it, it becomes this is what we talk to. This is the conversations we have with one another. This is what we remind one another about. We strike through developing and we just leave it at enhancing research within and among participating institutions. That will move closer to what I think Maniraj was saying, but we will come to that second part now. Again, strike through developing, but just continuing education programs in and among member institutions. I'm not too sure if we still need to have that, but let's leave it there for a while. We can strike through and facilitating, but promoting lecturer exchange between participating institutions. Because the problem with the word facilitation there is it becomes an office thing, which we can't really, it's very difficult to do that, but we promote that. We encourage that we do that. And if the office can help and assist, yes, by all means, we can do that. But it's not a jobless task for the office to do. We need to get people now and organize people. If you ask us to help, we can do that. But we are not going to initiate this from our side. It needs to be initiated from the member's side. So that's kind of an important thing. We'll get back to that one later in our report as well. Assisting with the hosting of conferences. So if anyone wants to hold a conference, we can assist. NetACT can assist with that. Yes, and of course we will drive our own conferences and things as well. And then the last one, I think it's okay, addressing specific concerns in African context, especially by providing joint theological, moral, and spiritual reflection and addressing. That's one of the big things which we do. So it's colleagues, that sort of just for now, how does that fall on the ear? Is that something, is it sort of a constitutional change that we can make?
For the lecturers exchange, I think to help us, if a request comes, I wish we have a data of faculty in different areas. This is where department will come in. The different needs of institutions, and we have the CVs of each other. NetACT can easily say, this person has this qualification to help that institution. That we can do in the office. But you have to help us by providing us with the information of your lecturers, the CVs of the lecturers. Somebody organize that into subject areas, interest areas, so that when an institution is requesting for a lecturer in an area, even for thesis supervision, we all have these needs. Like at the seminary where I am now, we have somebody from your school, somebody from Stellenbosch, and other people. So if we have that kind of information, we say, oh, this person might be available. Let's ask NetACT. Let NetACT do it on our behalf. And that makes us value the NetACT, the network. So I think as a way forward, let's begin to see regions organize yourself, get us the information. I like the idea of the region. Do we do that today? Do we do the division today? Do we take a decision on that today, or we allow the experts to do that?
Chair, we already sort of, if I can come in, yes, sorry. We already sort of tried to do that in the last year over the Zoom, but I think if the board is good with that, we can leave it to the EXCO to continue with maybe provide dividing the regions, which we already actually did, and then proceed from there to appoint or get leaders within that specific regions that will sort of take responsibility for that region, and then we can work from there on to say. But I'd like to come back to Manirash's proposal also on the department type of a departmental issue. Maybe we should also leave that to the EXCO to explore that and come back to you. It's not something that we will sort out today. We've got a lot of ideas. We've written down a couple of things. Can we do that? Can we maybe ask you that we spend the next EXCO meeting discussing that, and then we will report back to each of you, to all our members. Would that be sufficient? I will make a list now here, and later on I will just put it up on the board for you for decision making. Sorry, I just see Kruger had to leave very urgently. He's in the process of moving from one town to the other, and but his wife frantically called him now. He needs to leave to go and help her. She's struggling now with some issues in terms of their leave. Or they're moving from one town. So he asks that we please forgive him, and he sends his regards. He just sent me a WhatsApp.
Yeah, just to add through the chair regarding the lecturer exchange, I think a couple of years ago we have shared those details. So I think probably it needs updating because we've shared, we did share CVs and so I think it's just to find it somewhere. So with the new system, with the new institutions coming in to upgrade that information as well.
And even the CV we share, we can update it again.
Even the CVs that we have already shared might not have been updated. If possible, every one of us, let's just update things.
Thank you, colleagues. Maniraj.
Chair, this is just a constitutional issue. We are going to be amending, it seems to me, the constitution. I think there should be a vote. I'm not too sure what the percentage is, but for it to be implemented, we need a vote.
Yes, Can I, Chair, give me a minute? We will come back to the resolution. I'm typing a resolution here. With the first one is approve the board decides the following. Approve the amendments 2.3 on the mission statement. I will still write that. Number 2 will be that we submit all this now, send it back to the Exco. I'll put that, then I'll come back. We can move on in the meantime. I will type this and we will take the decision. Yeah, because we need to we need to approve a constitutional amendment.
So with this, we have already taken care of number 3 of page 11.
No, we need to come. Okay, colleagues, are you okay then that we also refer point 3, Chair? Also then to the Exco together with this the conversation and sort of an update on the summary of the conversation. You see there the challenges, as I elaborated in my opening remarks as well. We need to discuss. You'll see the proposal there, the full-time of the full-time executive. Because currently, yes, it was the same situation what Len had, that I know having. Len was also working very much, well, he was full-time involved in another job, so same as me. Our bosses are lenient with us, but in terms of my own personal capacity, it's catching up with me in terms of, so we need to really restructure that. But if we can get that to the Exco and have a good conversation there, we can come back with some maybe more concrete proposals on that at the moment. Just be aware of that. I just want to draw your attention. It's on page 11. So there's no full-time personnel. So it gives very little capacity to drive projects. Even this project of the curriculum and IT surveys. I mean, we need to do that between Hannes and myself, and Kriya helps us tremendously with that. And then I also neglected, actually last night in our conversation, the Block family, Retais and Marika was supposed to be included, and I completely forgot to invite them into the meeting. So yeah, they are a little bit upset with me. But that's how it is. So the capacities are not there. So I would like to really stress that. The management of Weidenhof takes a lot of the time and the effort from, now there's a point coming up later on in terms of Weidenhof. Weidenhof House is 3 times in the agenda, you will see. Because Weidenhof is a management thing. Although it belongs to NetACT and the university only takes partly responsibility for it, but Hannes will elaborate a little bit more on that. So a lot of Hannes's time, the 2 days a week that we are paying him a stipend to work for us in the office, most of that time goes into Weidenhof to manage literally the day-to-day running of Weidenhof. So, and then the 3 is the position was envisioned to play a much more role in terms of donors and relationships. But yeah, I try to fit it in as I do my own travels for my mission, for my office. It saves NetACT some money because NetACT hasn't paid for any of the travels this year. My office pays for it. So we can link that up with what I'm doing. I'll be willing to do that, but that should be then my only responsibility. I cannot be involved in much of the day-to-day project running as I'm currently doing at the moment. That becomes a total task of impossibility. And then you neglect small things, which is important, like having 2 of our colleagues onto the meeting. So yes, we seriously need, the question is are we discussing it now, Chair, or are we going to put that to the Exco?
What is your suggestion? Will you want the ESCO to discuss this instead of discussing it here? Or you have some ideas that you would like to share with the ESCO? Maybe we need coffee.
Um,
I
could-
wonder
could-
why
could-
there's no coffee here.
Could I just make one quite quick suggestion? Or not a suggestion, but to say that, just to make people aware that we're already using a lot of what you might call unpaid support. So for example, when we had, we're in Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch theology faculty does all our accounting and all our banking. And that's just seen as part of Stellenbosch's contribution to the network. You know, I mean, and what am I trying to say? We're already, so similarly with Jurgens, I think Jurgens was actually on an hourly, so, you know, a certain number of hours per week. And I think Hannes is the same. And I suspect that neither of them limited themselves to anything like those number of hours. So I just want, we need to be aware of what a big task this is. You know, it's like, well, you're all in sort of fairly senior positions. You know that the job expands to fulfill the time you have available. Yeah.
Brother Chair, this conversation this morning helped me a lot. Also to understand, and I think it will be good if the EXCO can go and say, okay, what are we willing to do? And what do we need to do it? And how many people do we need to do it? And can I say about Vadenov, I'm busy now with conversations with the university. They will take bigger responsibility. So they are willing to take some of the responsibility that I do now out of my hands. So, but I also to do it further, because I think that is a difficult point, but that is for the EXCO to discuss. The whole thing of where Vadenov is really, is it the responsibility of NetACT, or is it the responsibility of the university? So, but we will discuss it further on the EXCO.
Yeah, perhaps to just answer this question here, from what I know, that is a designated project. It was a family that donated that to NetACT, not to the university. So it's our baby. Is it not?
Yeah, but we can share the baby.
Yes, it's possible. I mean, we can share because the students are Stellenbosch.
Yeah.
You know, and Stellenbosch is a kind of a mutual kind of a thing there. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but through the chair, one of the concerns I have as we relinquish more of the responsibility towards the university. The last time I was there, some of the students are even having concern that we are now having Muslims even coming in there. I don't have any problem with having Muslim because it's part of what we do to evangelize. But now the regular evening prayer, my brother can identify that regular evening prayer we do have. Now the Muslims are also disrupting that. Yes, we have admitted them, they are paying, but they are not respecting the rules that is supposed to be part of the wedding half house. For some of us who have been part of that, it's been a process of growth. It's been a process of sharing what God is doing in other parts of the world. So I think even as we relinquish some of the responsibilities to the university, we must also make the university aware of the distinctiveness of the place and the purpose of why that place exists, so that we can continue promoting that discipleship, that spiritual formation for the students who are there. Yeah, thank you.
I've been there, you know, when I was there for my when I was there for my sabbatical, I enjoyed staying with the students there. I mean, these students come from all over the continent, and they kind of meet there, have devotions, very lively devotions together. What a blessing to have a place like that. Please, that is our legacy. We need to be careful that we don't allow Stellenbosch to take over that place, no matter what. But we'll talk about that in, yes.
Yes, on the house, I thought in the past we could have one student who could maybe have accommodation for free. And they would be responsible for taking care of some of the responsibilities. Are we still doing that? No, I'm asking, Hannes. In the house, we could have one student who would take responsibility of ensuring, taking care like a caretaker, and they would have their accommodation for free. They would not pay for it, but they would work for it, like doing the work. And even that person sometimes would help in the office. My question is, are we still doing that? So there is still that student.
Yeah, we are doing this. Teresa Panda from Angola is on, she's on the stage, our manager there. But I think what we are talking about, yes, and she helped me a lot. She do wonderful work. I'm so blessed to have her there. But I think I think there's two things, Mr. Chair, that we have to understand. The one thing is, yes, for sure, we have a wonderful accommodation there, and it is wonderful to have this place. And it is good that it is the place of NetACT, and it is our history. But to really maintain that place properly, you need a good responsibility, and that is a big responsibility. Only the maintenance of that place, and that is what the university is willing to help us with. And that is what I mean. They are willing to take that responsibility. Yeah, maintenance, so that they still accept that the house is the house of the NetACT, but they see it as their building that they have to maintain. That wasn't there in the past. To give you an example, Jurgens and I get it from him. Monthly, you have to replace the gas cylinders. And that gas cylinders is not easy to replace. And that is a big work to do. And it takes time. The university said, but we are willing to do that. Or like when things is not working, they phoned me and said, the light is not working or the light is out. And now we can say, no, that is the responsibility of the university.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe we should break here for coffee.
Yes.
Colleagues, those who need to go for the PCR tests. Okay. So those who need to go for that, the PCR test, go with Hannes now. And then we'll meet in 10 minutes. 10 minutes in front of reception. Thank you. Colleagues, let's break for tea. To have discussions now, what you've heard. And let's come back after tea at 11 and wrap this one up, and then we can move forward.